Welcome inside the preview edition of Ask Frank. I'm Amanda Borges here with Frank Frangie on GridironNow.com. Huge game this week, Frank. Alabama versus Georgia. Bama already has a loss. What does this game mean for both teams?
Well, it's gigantic. Let's start with Alabama. Alabama does have a loss in the West. They can't afford another loss in the league as good as Texas A&M and Ole Miss and LSU are. They've got to win the game to have a chance to win the West. I think the game is that big for Alabama. Alabama also needs to regain its swagger a little bit. Alabama used to be the team when they came in, everybody was afraid of them. I don't think Georgia is. I don't think Ole Miss was, and that game was in Tuscaloosa. Alabama's got to regain its swagger. They've got to prove that they can win defensively, too. Look, they found their quarterback. Derrick Henry's one of the best running backs in the country. They can score with you. They can get in those track meet games and hang around. They came back twice on Ole Miss, but still lost the game. But can Alabama suffocate you with their defense? I think Alabama has got to prove that they're still Alabama. I think a lot of people have talked about, is the dynasty over? Is Alabama not what they once were? This is a chance on national TV to prove that you are Alabama once again. That's how important the game is for the Crimson Tide.
Frank, do you think Georgia is as good as they seem to be?
Well, that's a great question. Are they or are they not? The question was Grayson Lambert. And in one of our previous Ask Franks, I told you, I think they're a different team because Brian Schottenheimer's got that pro mindset. Grayson Lambert is a pro-style quarterback. He's thrown all of 2 incomplete passes in his last 2 weeks. He has been fantastic. If he plays that way, yes, Georgia is that good. It's interesting. Georgia's an interesting football team. They always seem to mess one up. I think this Georgia team is a team that might not. They've got the best running game in America. I think Chubb might be the best back in America, although Leonard Fournette is certainly a guy that might argue that. But nobody's got the depth at running back that Georgia does. They can run the football. They've got great receivers. They run to the ball defensively. I think Jeremy Pruitt, the defensive coordinator, finally has his guys in place, and they finally get what he's trying to do. This could be the year for the Bulldogs. I'm telling you, this might be the game of the year in the SEC. Alabama trying to prove it's still a dynastic team. That dynasty is still there. Georgia trying to prove that they're not afraid of Alabama. East meets West. What a fantastic showdown in the SEC.
Another big game this week, Ole Miss at Florida. All of a sudden, Frank, Florida looks legit. Do you like their chances in this game?
We'll see. We'll see. I think it's a tough matchup for them. I probably think Ole Miss has more good players than Florida does, and I think Ole Miss overcame their asleep-at-the-wheel game last week against Vanderbilt. Florida's still on a high from Tennessee, so I think it's a tough matchup for the Gators. I think Ole Miss is probably going to win. But I think Florida found its quarterback. I think Florida started to find its receiving combination of Powell and Callaway and Robinson. They've got their guys now. So Jim McElwain is finding out who his team is. They're great on defense. What will help them is the swamp. Someone told me the swamp last week felt like it hasn't felt since 1997. That's almost 10 years ago. 90,000 people were there. The thing was electric. Now they've got the swamp at night. So I think that stadium will really, really help Florida. But I don't think they've got as good a team as Ole Miss does.
Well, here's a question I think a lot of people are wondering. Is Ole Miss as good of a team as they were when they beat Alabama?
That's a great question because they looked like the best team in the country that night, didn't they? I think they've got a very good team. There's some concerns. They don't have a big physical running back, so they've got to kind of gimmick up their running game a little bit. Also, they're a team that when they have to get in a scoring showdown or a scoring track meet, you would think they can do that, but I'm not sure. They had those 2 70-point games to start with, but they had trouble getting points last week against Vanderbilt. I think they're very good. I'm not sure they're the 3rd best team in the country, which is where they're ranked right now, but I think they're going to go into the swamp and beat Florida. I think they're the better of those 2 teams.
Arkansas at Tennessee this week. Both teams blew it last week. Frank, what's their mindset this week?
Boy, it's awful, isn't it? I mean, I think those 2 teams, God bless them. Arkansas, not just because of what happened last week, but the whole season has been a debacle. Many people, like this dummy, picked Arkansas to be a sleeper team in the SEC, and they're anything but that. They're struggling. I think they've lost some confidence. I think Brett Bielema has been too outspoken. He's had too much swagger. He's got to dial it back down a little bit. I question all of us who thought Arkansas had something special. I think Tennessee's got a good team. Tennessee has played 2 bad quarters. The 4th quarter against Oklahoma and the 4th quarter against Florida. I think they've got a very good team. So I think Tennessee is still going to have a good season. They've got Alabama and Georgia, and I think they've got a chance to win either of those games. But Josh Dobbs has to throw the ball better. He's a terrific leader. Florida couldn't tackle the guy. He led Tennessee in rushing, receiving, and passing in the same game, which never happens. And Florida couldn't tackle him, but he's got to throw more accurately. Amanda, in this day and age, you've got to hit the open receiver. No matter how well your quarterback runs, you got to pitch it and catch it. That's what's really hurting Tennessee. It really hurt him against Florida.
Well, we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, we will.
That's a wrap on this preview edition of Ask Frank. For more hot topics in the SEC, check out gridironnow.com. See you next time.